And here at the 12 o'clock position on Metropolis, we have our red Terran player from the team StarTale. It is none other than Bomber. And his opponent down at the 6 o'clock position, the Quantic.Apocalypse himself. He's our blue Terran player.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign of Quantic's trust in Apocalypse, I feel like.
Yeah.
They've been using him a lot in a lot of team matches, and, you know, he's had, honestly, varying degrees of success. Sometimes he looks really right on and looks fantastic and a top-level player, and sometimes it looks like he might struggle with some of his timings or some of his builds. So he'll definitely need to be on ball to be able to take down Bomber.
He's incredibly aggressive, sometimes almost to a fault. When we saw him initially, when Quantic was first making their appearance in Team Arena Challenge, this back, you know, in previous seasons, he really overextended himself. He had successful attacks, but then kind of didn't know when to quit. Since he's been practicing on a more regular basis outside of ladder, he's certainly toned that down and still retains that killer instinct, but has his work cut out for him because he's going up against one of the best in the business, and that is Bomber.
Yeah, and both of them doing very standard builds, both of them starting and walling off with barracks at their entrances, so they're both going to probably be looking to tech behind this. Yeah.
And, you know, the coolest thing, too, is we do see gas coming down for the Quantic.Apocalypse right now is, you know, it went in cycles. Everyone was like, oh, you're a Terran player. Wall everything off all the time. And then people got in the stage in TBT and they said, no, that is foolish. Because if you wall off, you expose your supply depots when there's big pushes that are later on in the game. You don't want to be supply blocked when that happens. Then people realize, hey, I'm a Terran player that knows how to make more than one base. So now I don't have to worry about those 9-10 minute siege tank pushes that are going to kill my supply depots and supply block me at the beginning. So as we develop more into macro games, people got back into the phase of denying information again, and so they decided to start walling off once more.
Yeah, and I think definitely it's something that has been very interesting to watch develop throughout the course of StarCraft 2, where, you know, it almost goes very much with how people cheese. Like, what's the current, you know, flavor of cheese? Where a lot of times Protoss versus Terran, they would proxy a Stargate a while ago, and you would never want your supply depots near there because it gave them a charging target.
That's
so,
right.
You know, that almost forced like a metagame shift where you build it further back. And, you know, there's a lot of maps where siege tanks are used to great effect. You know, one of the obvious ones is Tal'Darim, Rim, where you have to be very careful with building placement, or you give them free buildings.
That's right.
So on this map, you know, it definitely, siege tanks are a concern because there is very typical siege spots where you can sort of nestle up right against the enemy base. But I think that these players are strong enough that they'll be able to meet that in the middle of the map and have that resolved there.
And the Quantic.Apocalypse has started with a Reaper going into a factory afterwards and second gas. So this is going to be extremely high tech off of just one base. Bomber, on the other hand, he did a very interesting build. He actually went 16 gas into a 1-Rax command center. So it wasn't quite the 1-Rax gasless fast expand as he did get gas. It was just very, very late. But then he puts down his command center afterwards. So he'll have a solid economy, but yet still comparably high tech in the mid game.
Yeah, really, it hasn't put him that far behind. It's going to be a little bit, but not significantly.
And we'll see what this Reaper is actually able to ascertain from his opponent's base. Should be able to get in there, get some pretty valuable scouting. He can make his way right up the front and kind of run along the back of the base if he wants.
Blue Flame!
Hooray! Blue Flame Hellions! Although, actually, honestly, seeing Blue Flame Hellions makes me think, oh, as the Quantic.Apocalypse has to watch out. Can't lose that Reaper!
The SCV almost got a kill.
Go, SCV! You can do it! I believe in you! And the Marine's going to finish the job.
Yep. So it did look like he did get a full scout on it. Both going for similar tech buildings, but probably divergent tech paths. I don't think we'll see Bomber go for Blue Flame. It looks like we might see some early siege tanks, or he'll switch it for Banshees.
This Blue Flame, though, reminds me of the horrific period of TVT when we had nothing but basically Vikings and Hellions.
Yes.
Because people were like, I can build lots of Hellions, and they roast everything really quickly back when they could two-shot workers. And then other people started thinking, well, you know what? You know what's really good against those, actually, are Vikings. They can actually sustain a lot of damage. They have a lot of mobility. They can still harass themselves. And you had this just disgusting period where it was nothing but landed Vikings against Blue Flame Hellions. Now, though, they're still seen every once in a while, but it's certainly not the prevalence it used to be.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the most fearsome things you used to be able to see was a medevac coming in and dropping off four Blue Flame Hellions in your base.
Oh, yeah.
It's really difficult to kill them before they actually kill everything of your workers. it's very frustrating. So, and it looks like Apocalypse is definitely going full out aggressive here with Blue Flame Hellions and Cloak Banshees. So, and getting another starport, so he's going to be at 2 ports.
I always go back to this game I cast out on Scrap Station once between Stalife and I forgot who the other player was. They got themselves down to 3 workers apiece and then spent the next 20 minutes trying to re-macro up to a basic 1-base attack. So it was one of the most frustrating games I've ever casted. So Quantic.Apocalypse is going to drop in with 7 Marines here in a second. There's already a couple of tanks up, though, for Bomber. This is a crazy cool build. It lets you get up to siege tanks so early on. It sacrifices some early Marine upgrades, but certainly those tanks are going to be more valuable than anything else in holding off the Hellions. Now, he's got to watch out for his opponent's own unupgraded Marines, though, and it looks like he will successfully do so. This is not a good attack from Apocalypse.
Exactly what he didn't want. It felt like he hesitated. He showed his hand a little bit early and just couldn't end up handling what Bomber had just sitting in his base. So, you know, it's a good build, but he didn't execute it as well as he should have.
All right. Well, the SCV unfortunately forced to stop constructing that, and the Marines bounce out without taking too much more damage, but not a whole lot done there from Apocalypse once again. And he's actually shifting off now. He's produced 3 tanks with siege mode, and this is how he starts producing his bio upgrades. What a crazy cool build out of him. This drop going to try and make its way in one more time, but the siege tank's going to be able to dispatch that pretty easily.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, and I wonder if he'll be able to see all these barracks being built, because that could really affect how he's going to do it. Right now, he is on 2-port Banshee and double expanding behind it. So
that's right.
If he's able to stabilize here and do some damage, he'll be in a very good position.
Yeah, but that's a big if, I have to admit. If he's able to do damage here, of course, his opponent is pretty well prepared for those Banshees. As we already see, there is a Viking up and out for now. For Bomber, though, he does have a couple of orbital commands. Does he have any scans saved up? No, he does not. He's got to get down some turrets very, very quickly.
Yeah, he really needs to be targeting the... Oh, is the SCV build? Yeah, there is an SCV building. He needs to target that SCV building that turret, or he's going to just let him get up for free.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to let that get up, but he has done quite a bit of damage here in being able to stabilize.
Yeah, and really, I think what Apocalypse is trying to do here is definitely contain, because with Bomber's build, it's definitely a very defensive-oriented build, so Apocalypse is hoping to contain him with Banshees and Hellions long enough for him to get an extra base up. Oh, what a sick tank micro. Oh my god, that's awesome.
Picks up in the medevac just in time. Very well done, Bomber. So he's able to save that tank. It still wasn't pretty for him. He lost a lot of workers, but certainly could have been a lot worse. Now, Apocalypse does have his 3rd base finish up. He's morphing in double orbital command, so we'll be able to start calling down a ton of mules at the same time. And in fact, his economy is going to reflect that very soon. But Bomber already does have another command center on the way himself, so we certainly no slouch in the economic department himself.
Yeah, and Bomber's definitely going for a very heavy infantry style. It's interesting to see the tech switches between these guys. Bomber starts off getting fast tanks with siege mode, and then switch over to very heavy infantry style, already getting an armory so he can get +2/+2 as soon as possible. While Apocalypse switches off with Blue Flame Hellion into Cloak Banshee into
mech, but
with another starport. He's had 3 starports and 3 factories.
This reminds me of that. Remember that Iacoic Terran build was really popular for a while?
Yeah.
A lot of units through the air, Vikings and Banshees, and then just a smattering of units through the ground as well. It's kind of reminds me of that, but without any bio added into it. So certainly kind of a crazy build, though.
And he's adding on. Oh, what is he? What is?
1,000,000 factories. Build all of the factories.
He's going to be able to have a lot of Hellions, that's for sure, but...
7 factories, 3 starports.
No tech labs on any of the factories.
He's just producing just mass Blue Flame Hellions for now. This is actually insane. My mind's exploding a little bit, I have to admit. So Apocalypse is not a very standard player. We mentioned before that he was a heavy ladder player in Korea, and has kind of transitioned out of that, now playing with Quantic for quite a long time. But he still has a tendency to throw just super weird looks at his opponents.
You know what's pretty good against Hellions?
What's that?
Thors.
Yeah.
Thors are pretty good.
Thors are building. Thor is not quite here, unfortunately. We'll announce that in a bit. But Orbital Command is going to get put down. Let's see. Bomber should see this, so yeah, all of his units are running down now.
It's interesting that he's getting weapons up when he only has one factory. So either he's planning on providing for the future, where he maybe does a switch back to more of a mech style, or he feels like it's really strong.
And now Apocalypse is starting to add on add-ons himself. He has sacrificed a little bit of supply now, despite the fact that he's been producing off of 3 orbital commands for a while. He sacrificed a bit of supply because he wanted to make sure that he got this infrastructure in place. Now, so that supply gap is going to catch up very, very quickly, as he'll be able to produce basically a billion mech units.
Yeah, and he's producing more Hellions. Just Hellion Banshee, apparently. Hellion Banshee tank. I mean, it's definitely very interesting. I remember some people experimented with this against Protoss, actually, quite a while ago, and there's a reason people don't do it anymore.
That's right. Well, we'll see if it's going to work out for Apocalypse now. Bunch of units running back. Let's see if they're going to be able to stim up.
That's not a lot of Marines. You know, those Banshees, if they get some hits on them, some Marines can actually pretty much take them.
That's right, and he's picking off one at a time here and stopping the construction for so long. He may be able to kill a Banshee.
No, all 3.
Oh man. Getting back home, not losing a single unit there. Oh, I thought this was a command center going up for a second, but no, just another barrack. So both these players are now on 3 bases, exactly the same in terms of workers as well. Just mech versus kind of a biomech composition.
Yeah, this is weird. It's like Thor Bio versus Hellion Banshee tank.
That's right.
It's not very normal compositions in TVT.
No, not at all. So, well, we'll see what Apocalypse is going to be up to in a bit. It's a 4th base for now, but I'm sorry, like I feel like I'm ignoring Bomber a little bit because he's got this really cool biomech composition going on at the moment, but Apocalypse is just so weird for now.
Yeah, I think Bomber is definitely doing a good job at responding to what Apocalypse was doing. You know, he's getting Thors with upgrades to handle the Banshees. He's getting a lot of Marauders to be able to handle the Hellions, and I think we're probably going to see Bomber crush Apocalypse in this coming fight. But it'll be interesting if Apocalypse can delay long enough and get it more bases and get more of a standard build, or start mass producing tanks, then I think it could still turn out to be quite well for him. And here we go with the fight.
That's right. So tanks are sitting at the back now for Quantic.Apocalypse, but a largely Marauder composition is tearing through these Hellions very, very quickly. Nice juke there from Apocalypse to pull back within range of the siege tanks there for a little bit, but he did lose his Banshees overhead. So after all is said and done, a 17 supply advantage for Bomber at the moment. Apocalypse, though, of course, is moving over to that 4th base very, very soon.
Yes, and I think Bomber did come out a little bit better in that fight. It was a little bit unfortunate positioning for Apocalypse, where his tanks were pretty much out of range, and in fact, it wasn't really until Bomber tried to follow the Hellions that a lot of his Marauders did get shot.
Well, we'll see now what's up these guys' sleeves. I expect some sort of like weird, huge tech transition or something insane out of Bomber. I mean, or not Bomber, Apocalypse. He has the 3 tech lab starports already down, so I'm kind of half expecting a fusion core here in a bit, and eventual switch over to battle cruisers, but no such thing in sight yet.
Oh, look, a fantastic flank by Bomber here. He's going to be able to catch the last half of the tanks before they get fully sieged, and it looks like he will be to clear these up.
Oh yeah, that's a huge win for him, as Apocalypse now has to restart these very, very expensive mech units. Not a lot of medevacs floating overhead. These 2 pretty taxed to the limit, unfortunately, for Bomber. But he does now find himself at a massive supply advantage, and with all the mobility in the world, it's going to be very difficult for a mech player, you know, to try and catch a bunch of flanks with bio units.
Yeah, and those Hellions just really do no damage to anything that Bomber has in his composition at this point. So I think that these Thors are going to march in and pretty much end the game.
Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case. Siege tank sieging up for Bomber as well. And yeah, the Thors are starting to move forward. One of them may go down here in a second, but you're right. The tanks have just fallen so quickly. The Hellions just not lasting all that long against the Marauders, unfortunately. So Marauders are eventually going to get cleaned up, but here comes round number 2 of Bio. Quantic.Apocalypse is down to just 111 supply.
Yeah, realistically, all Bomber really has to do is target down the tanks, because the Hellions do so little damage to his composition that he can just tank their fire pretty much forever.
That's right. So
100 supply up, or 90 supply up. It seems pretty foregone. In fact, his 3rd is having to fly out, and I think that he's not going to be able to stabilize here. I think we're going to see a GG pretty soon.
All right. Well, Apocalypse does like fighting to the very bitter end, so he's not quit quite yet. He's going to be able to set down that base again in just a second. A little bit more damage done to those mech units there. And Bomber, it is Bomber, of course, going to make a huge drop inside of his opponent's main.
Yeah, and Bomber doing the right thing. He's making 2 more command centers, just going to basically assure himself a victory, not letting the gas off with this drop. And then I expect to see some harassment at the 4th as well. And there's the GG right there.
Yep, there it is. So StarTale takes game number 1 of the set.